And it's going to be something with water. Okay, so that's going to be probably migration, I would guess. Please, migration. Yeah, it's migration. That's definitely NC's home map, I would say, because NC's love this map. They play it very commonly or very often, and I'm kind of curious why they did pick Arabia. I think they picked Arabia against DMX last time around, and well, it didn't really pay off. Maybe they were hoping for some faster games, but yep, that's definitely not something that happened here. Since we are playing on this kind of very discrete map with small islands and whatnot, there's no point actually for keeping the Fog of War on. And looking at the map overall, I don't see any problem with the fishing placement. All four corners seem to be pretty bountiful. And looking at how the islands look, kind of problem there, I don't really think so. Yellow together with green and blue are on the left. This could be a problem. This kind of peninsula could be a slight problem because it won't be really all that easy for a red Philip AJS to actually help his teammate, as he will be having kind of hard time going all around here potentially to this kind of battlefield or whatnot. Whereas it will be all that easier for blue to help yellow if that's going to happen here, as he's having just basically a highway there. So yep, this might be slightly problematic for BFs, as they will be maybe slower in getting reinforcements, but at the same time, if the battle went the other way around, it's going to be the same kind of disadvantage and advantage, obviously, for the other side. Well, Andorin is dropping a dock kind of offensively on his opponent J squared, so he will be thinking about aggression pretty soon, it seems. Whereas, where is dropping Pedro dock? So far nowhere. So far nowhere, so he may be slinging. Well, as a Viking, that would be kind of stupid, wouldn't it? But, well, so far I don't see a dock, so he's not going for it yet. Whereas yellow is building one. No, he isn't. He is, so far, just trying to make sure that he doesn't have to build any extra mill, even though he probably will because of these bushes. But right now he wants to save as much as he can so that he can build a first dock and then actually have as many fishing boats as he can. The dock is being built here, which is maybe not as aggressive as maybe you would have thought, but slightly more aggressive would be here. So it's kind of semi-aggressive, I would say. It's some kind of between aggressive and defensive. And well, what we can look at is the civilizations. With Skittle playing Japanese, Vikings for Pedro and Andorinas Persians, whereas J squared is Viking, Philip AJS is Japanese, and Elkvark is Han. So that's a difference between Persians and Huns here, with Elkvark and Andorin. That's going to be quite interesting indeed, as they are not pockets, and pockets are Japanese for Philip AJS for BFs, whereas it's Pedro as the Viking for NCs. So have a look somewhere else where the docks are being built, for example with purple, and yeah, right now this is a difference, because he is dropping definitely a defensive dock, so he's thinking he will be very heavily attacked by his opponent, and he's maybe thinking about more of a landing strategy here than prolonged fight on the water, so let's see how that will work out for him. But definitely this is just telling you that NCs will be the ones aggressive on this map, whereas BFs are kind of thinking that since New Chapter really love this map, they are going to be pretty strong here. This is aiming for helping on the south side. So is Pedro also going south? Actually, he isn't. He's actually going north to help with Andorin. So this is going to be quite interesting to see if Pedro with Andorin are going to be stronger against their teal opponent, or if Red Philip AJS is going to be stronger with Elkvark against their opponent Skittle. Well, that's going to be quite interesting indeed to see how this is going to happen. Bill is building, yeah, that's more of a defensive dock as well, trying to make sure that his route to the mainland is basically covered by these docks and whatnot, so he's maybe thinking that the battle will be taking place around here, and maybe even hoping for it, and this kind of trapped sheep here, and he's just waiting for the last stone to be somewhere here, make sure that she doesn't run away. At any rate, are there some unsafe mines? Oh well, right now he's going for an aggressive dock. Okay, so this was just the first one. Or at the right side, basically to tell that he will be able to help Elkvark, and right now he is switching also here, so that he tells his other opponent, or rather his other ally J squared, that he will be helping as well. So feudal age for J squared, which is pretty fast at this point, at just 19 villies. And I don't see anything from Skittle, switching into Andorin. Still having just the one aggressive and otherwise not something at the back. Not yet, not yet, so he's just not thinking about it. But this gold is kinda, I don't like it all that much, because if he happens to lose the water, this is well in range of the boats, so this won't be safe at all for him, and that's not really good at all, because obviously once you don't have safe resources and you lose the water, you're basically out of the game, and landing is going to be hard, and at the same time not really safe at all. At the same time though, this triple gold mines, complemented by the fourth one here on the mainland, is going to make for a very sweet landing for either Pedro or Andorin, and that's not really all that nice for the opponents, because I don't see anything in there. This is just empty. And looking at the minimap, they definitely did draw the shorter straw, because I see just this gold that is closer to BF's and this one gold for them as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of gold on NC's side. Also this one could be considered NC's. Yeah, most definitely. So a lot of gold on NC's side. Whereas, how's it looking with the stone? It almost seems like that there's more stone in the middle, and maybe yeah, BFs could be considered better on the stone department, but still, I would simply much prefer this kind of gold, especially on one place, because it's going to be easily defensible for them. Well, a lot of dogs here for Teal, so he's definitely thinking about the aggression here, whereas Andorin is having 3 dogs at this point. Teal was having 4th, right? Yeah, he's having 4 dogs. Aret is having 1, 2, so he's not really overdoing stuff. I'm going to switch into, for example, J squared if he's maybe been slung. Also into achievements. Not yet. Not yet, but doesn't mean that it won't be happening anytime soon. And well, Alquark is having 3 dogs soon, not yet though, so he's going to be slower than his opponent Skittle, who is already having 2nd up, and 3rd is here on kinda defensively, but it's because he wants more coverage actually on this bountiful part of the sea. As you can see on the minimap, there's literally a ton of fish there, and he wants to spend as less time raiding, or rather traveling with these boats, and more time actually gathering extra resources. So Andorin is finally making his way to Teal base, or rather Teal is making a way to his, and he's right now having upper hand, and Andorin is forced to retreat with some of his boats to make sure that he isn't overpowered, and he really, he's fighting 3 against 4 dogs. So if J squared played this correctly, he should be having the upper hand for basically the rest of the game. And maybe Pedro, or rather Andorin, will be needing extra help. And you can already see that J squared is even able to afford extra boats to send them on Pedro. And well, Pedro won't be ready for this at all. I'm kind of thinking he's having 1, 2, he's actually having a lot of dogs, 4 dogs, which is pretty decent. So he will be attempting to maybe help at some side. But is it going to be enough? I'm kind of thinking that not. Yellow building market here, trying to make sure that he isn't boarded somehow or whatever. And well, these yellow boats are already going into offensive, but they will be caught off guard because Proplay is having a bit more units than he would have liked. Red is so far not doing anything, and yeah, here we go. Here we go with the sling, and it's starting, and it's going into J squared, and probably will be going also into his ally Elquark, I would guess, because, yep, for dogs, there's definitely a hallmark that you will be having quite a large production of boats. So let's see how well this will actually go for them, as I'm not exactly sure that NCs are going to be prepared for all this. I'm going to quickly check into the achievements yet again if something is happening here. Just the Philip AJS, and switching into Andorin to see if maybe he will be really slung by Pedro, but I would be really surprised because he's playing Vikings, and Vikings should be the guys that are pretty strong on the water. And here we go. He actually is slinging as a pocket and as a Viking as well, so yep, that's that. And Skittle is first advancing into Castle, which is pretty fast, and even without any kind of extra slings, so that's kind of curious at this point. Maybe he did receive resources just yet, switching into him pretty fast at this point. And J squared clicking up into Castle Age as well. So yeah, I'm kind of expecting that Skittle did receive some extra resources from Pedro just for the advance here. So yeah, this is basically the same strategy from both teams, and let's see who executes better. So far it seems like the J squared is basically, yeah, the man that is dictating the tempo of the game with those 3 boats right next to Pedro, who probably wasn't hoping to build any kind of galleys, but right now he is forced to defend himself, and is basically forced to kind of waste resources that he should be sending to his allies yeah, to fend better against their opponents. Switching to the top side, where we see a very tense battle between Andorin and J Squared. J Squared will be having a pretty huge upper hand very soon, because Andorin is not advancing yet, whereas J Squared is halfway there, and that's going to definitely result in War Galleys pretty soon. Pedro right now clicking into Castle Age, so it wasn't really all that much of a sling from Andorin, rather into Andorin, so that's kind of curious. It's really curious at this point, and I'm not exactly sure who's going to go better off, who's going to be better off, but I'm thinking that yellow will be very important in the next minutes, because he will be fighting purple, and purple isn't having any kind of boats, just here, right next to his docks. A lot of them, 5 docks, that's pretty decent for potential defense, and yeah, Teal might be having, or rather Yellow might be having a bit of a window of opportunity to actually go for it, and right now he does. But he needs to hurry up, because Elkwark will be up pretty soon as well, and he has somewhere to actually retreat. Let's see about that. Before the engagement, quick check in here, where we see that J Squared is definitely winning against Andorin in the water battle here, and is Andorin having something somewhere? Not much, he's just raiding here, somehow got next to the red player, so he's raiding the economy as well. And yep, right now yellow is having a bit of an advantage, but that's pretty much over, because purple is having enough time to retreat, and war galleys are already being researched for him as well. So I'm kinda thinking it should be time for maybe a landing from the pockets potentially. But I don't really see anything from Pedro, and whereas Pedro seem to be helping actually on the left side, because right now he will be forced to, as J Squared is already having those war guys, and yep, this is a pretty horrible engagement from Pedro, and he definitely needs to retreat to regroup and hopefully go for his own upgrade pretty soon. Okay, so this is the first landing, and yeah, run away, run away, run away, you mustn't let J Squared actually know. Oh well, unfortunately he did it, and even though the villagers survived, right now BFs, well, pretty well know what's happening here, and yep, this is not really good news for NCs, and really BFs are the one dominating the game so far. They are also having pretty nice scouting through this one fortunate ship, so they actually know the lay of the land at least a little bit, but they are not landing yet. At least it doesn't seem so. And well, switching off the fog of war yet again to see what is happening. How is it looking with yellow? Yellow is still trying to somehow harass his opponent, purple. But yeah, that's not going to be successful, because I think that purple is having larger amounts of boats at this point. Yeah, this is a pretty bad battle, to be honest, for yellow to take. Correct that. That's absolutely horrible battle for him to take, because he's fighting right next to the military buildings of his opponent, and also in an engagement where he did really have lower amount of units, and this was, yeah, a huge waste of resources for him, unfortunately. But well, I kinda thinking that it's still not going to decide the battle right there, because yeah, he's still having a decent amount of boats, and right now reinforcements are here. So this is going to take some time, so let's check how well is actually Pedro doing, or rather Andorin, and he is basically sacrificing his own economy for the potential advantage of killing the economy of the slinging player Philip AJS, which is not a half bad idea, because obviously it's going to lessen the strength of this link, which means that those players are not going to be as strong as possible. I'm talking about J Squared and Quark. So yellow right now is having, yeah, decent amount, but still not enough to actually push purple as back as he's right now falling back to. So not really ideal, but with those extras he could be, but I think that overall this is pretty much just equal. Red has already landed quite strongly, as he's having pretty decent build up here with 2 town centers, triple stables here, and I'm not really seeing anything substantial from NCs, and really this is kind of interesting, because I don't really see anything at all. Let's have a check around the coast. There's literally nothing. Just right now Pedro finally making his way with the first villagers here and trying to build the town center, but that's kind of way too slow compared to what Red is doing, because Red is basically camped in the middle and will be the one to dominate the main island for the time being. He's already scouting pretty well, having all those knights and sheep everywhere, just trying to make sure that he captures them before his opponents do, and he is doing a pretty good job of making sure that he knows about everything that is happening here. J Squared is also joining with him, And well, since he has won the battle against Andorin, with Andorin basically giving up on the water altogether, just being happy with raiding the economy, it seems like that BFs are definitely having the upper hand here, as J squared is almost popped. Now he's looking, or almost popped, well, not nearly, sorry about that, but he's having just a huge amount of boats, and he's basically able to contain both Andorin, with Andorin not doing anything, and also Pedro, which is bad news for NCs, as Pedro is having to spend a lot of resources, whereas he should be the one actually landing, which he did, but he doesn't have enough resources to do anything like his opponent, Philip AJS, is doing at this point. So this means that Philip AJS is actually successfully denying Pedro anything on the mainland, which is, yep, maybe going to decide the game right there, because yellow is not advancing onto the mainland either. Whereas J squared is already in, and he's sending yet more villages there, so this is just going to be total domination of BFs on the mainland here. The only thing that Skittler right now is managing pretty well and being the highest scored player is actually trying to somehow strangle the economy of his opponent, because he has won the water battle against Elkvark, but right now he is just basically trying to win the battle with time, because he is killing Elkvark here, but at the same time they are losing the mainland, and well, not even the Imperial Age might be enough for him. Let's see about that, switching Skittle. And I'm really thinking that Andorin at this point is full slinging, because I don't really see any kind of activity from him, and even though he's advancing into castle, there's absolutely no chance that he will land unless Pedro somehow wins this for him, which is going to be looking not really all that probable, because J squared is not giving up and he's doing a damn good job on the water overall. So the TC is still under attack, but really not ideal at this point, as Pedro has been able to build at least 4 villages here, and once he actually puts them inside the TC, it means that those guys cannot really raid safely. But Pedro is not really paying attention. Not ideal for him, losing the village here right there, but right now he is, and he will be forcing those knights yet again away from his TC. Meanwhile though, Philip AJS is doing quite well with building his economy on the land, and I'm kinda thinking that he doesn't really need to be worried about the water economy at all, and not even his mainland, because, or rather main island that he was starting at, because basically he can lose that. He still has those mines, very safe indeed. Those are absolutely beautifully positioned, and there's no way that Skittle can actually shoot at them, especially this stone is going to be pretty crucial. So, right now, this will be a bit of a race for time for NCs if they can maybe deny BFs the gold. Yeah, this is the next stepping stone here, because BFs are having just this one gold mine and they have to capture the left side. Right now I kinda think that they are very well aware of this fact, and they need to do something about that as soon as possible, because if they don't, they still might lose, even though they were the first on the mainland and really controlling it overall. And this is the second gold, but really just the ratio of those 2 gold mines against those 4, that's obvious for the later game. Second TC for J squared, who is also moving in and trying to transport as many villagers as he can. And I'm really thinking, since Andorin is still having some boats here, that J squared might be maybe even quitting on the water. I wouldn't really be thinking that would be the worst course of action, because really at this point, if they went fully for the land, they should be able to win. Imperial Age for Pedro, that's also pretty important, because NCs will be having 2 players in Imperial Age, whereas DMX, or not DMX, that was the last game, BFs are not advancing yet, which is at this point pretty curious. And well, let's see how Skittle can actually finish his opponent. I'm kinda expecting some kind of Cannon Galleon soon, and well, oh, oh well, this is unfortunate for Elkvark. He's actually landing at the same spot where Yellow was landing, which means, yeah, bad news, because Yellow was way ahead of you, and these VDs are kinda dead, and this is just going to result in death of them overall, and Elkvark will be having kind of a trouble actually moving somewhere else, because Skittle is having very nicely positioned boats, and he will be seeing absolutely everything, and he won't be letting this transport boat go anywhere else. So I'm kinda thinking that Elkvark will be slightly forced into a bit of a slinging in his own base, because he's basically out. He has no way out of his island. He will have to somehow risk it or whatever, because right now he's in a pretty horrible position, and Skittle is playing this very wisely, because he's trying to control the landmass here, right next to the water, the shoreline, that's the word I was looking for, and basically disable his opponent purple from any kind of substantial landing or any kind of landing overall. Teal is trying to somehow win the water back, at least for red player, and maybe even help his teammate Elquark, but so far reasonably successful with Siege Workshop being built by J Squared and a lot of upgrades being at this point researched. So Pedro seems to be winning the water at this point as he's putting his full might behind this attempt, and he's doing a good job indeed in that, and it means that J Squared will either have to choose if he wants to go for full water or something on the land as well. Andorin has also transported his villies on the mainland right now, trying to make something happen, and they are actually denying the gold at this point. So even though Philip AJS was realizing that he needs the gold, he is way too late with the proper aggression, and this basically allowed Andorin with Pedro to somehow establish themselves, and Pedro already having 3 TCs. Well, right now it's just all about the proper army, but still it's pretty slow from NCs as they are building just town centers, which is not going to be enough against the army from the red player, and once those siege weapons are like mangonels or whatnot are trickling in together with those knights, that's going to be it. And here we see the GGs, and well, BFs are actually resigning because I kind of think it's really because of this, because of Elkvark being put out of the game altogether, and that would kind of escalate, especially when we consider that Imperial Age is only right now being researched from Philips, and yep, Elkvark out of the game altogether with just 38 villies and basically disallowed to land, and J squared, well, not advancing into Imperial either. So even though it looked very decisively nicely played from J squared and overall BFs on the water at the very beginning, it handled very fast landing from red. They just couldn't capitalize on it for some weird reason. And well, nicely contained for NCs and actually continuing battling. So that was very well played indeed. An interesting game, and I have to say kinda unexpected end. Unexpected and sudden end, but the complete stranglehold of Skittle on Elkvark was probably what ended the game overall. So let's have a look at the achievements, where we will see Skittle as the winner. Yeah, because he wasn't facing any kind of heavy opposition. He was winning quite nicely against Elkvark, even though the early games, or the early stage of the game, seemed to be going quite well for the purple player. In the end, it wasn't enough. J squared, largest army, but what good it is when one of your players is actually strangleholded like that, or strangleheld like that. Not much of a sling actually, just really kind of minute numbers. And even though he did have very nice echo indeed, just couldn't carry, it seems like, or at least BFs thought so. Interesting. GG.